First of all, it's very difficult in wartime. Anybody who's participating in combat, it's always difficult to speak about winning because war is about destruction, it's about death. And I think as much as Iran delivered pain to Israel, Israel delivered pain to Iran. I think that's one of the reasons why both nations accepted this ceasefire as rapidly as they did. But, let's just start from foundational aspects. One, we have the whole issue of global perception. Israel, of course, can articulate why they felt the need to attack Iran the way they did. But from the global perspective, it's a violation of the United Nations Charter, Article 2, Paragraph 4. Israel hasn't articulated a cognizable claim under Article 51. They haven't gone to the Security Council to make this claim. And so from many points of view, this is an illegal war of aggression, which automatically puts Israel in the loser block. That's up there with Imperial Japan attacking the United States on Pearl Harbor, etc. Two, if you're going to do this, if you're going to say, okay, we're going to take the risk of alienating the world, then let's see why you did this. Israel said that Iran's nuclear program posed an existential threat to Israel and to other nations because they had achieved a certain threshold status. Now, that's debatable given the fact that we had ongoing negotiations with the Iranians where they were willing to step back from almost every aspect of this verifiably. But let's just assume that you say you can't trust the Iranians. If your goal was to eliminate the Iranian nuclear program, their enrichment program, Israel failed. So they failed in that objective. Many aspects of their initial strike was regime change. It appeared that they're going for a decapitation strike. Indeed, some of the comments made by Benjamin Netanyahu afterwards was, step aside, let us finish this task of destroying your facilities, and then we can get on in peace and harmony. I think focusing more on the Iranian president and the foreign minister, who are known moderates, and trying to eliminate the IRGC and the more hardcore Iranian officers. While they did succeed in killing a number of people, there's no doubt about that, including 14 scientists, and we can get into the efficacy of that. The point is, there wasn't regime change. In fact, if that was the objective, it failed because the regime today, by many accounts, is stronger than ever. The Iranian people have rallied around the regime. And again, we get back to the nuclear aspect. 400 kilograms of uranium hexafluoride enriched to 60% is unaccounted for. No one knows where it is. Israel doesn't know where it is. We don't know where it is. We know where it's not. It's not beneath the ground in Natanz. It's not beneath the ground in Isfahan. It's not beneath the ground in Fordo. The other thing is the centrifuges. Some people say you can't remove the centrifuges that were in Fordo in Natanz. Maybe, maybe not, but it doesn't matter because since 2021, I think February of 2021, Iran stopped reporting centrifuge production to the IAEA. And the fact is today, Iran has the potential of having thousands of functional centrifuges that are outside the scope and scale of IAEA knowledge, therefore outside the scope and scale of what the United States and Israel know about. So if you take the uranium hexafluoride 60%, you take centrifuges, and you take the reality that Iran has dozens of Fordo-like hide sites throughout the nation that nobody knows about, all you've done is enable Iran to secret away the key aspects of a nuclear weaponization program without IAEA monitoring. And now what you've done is you've sort of pissed the Iranians off. They said, if you attack our nuclear sites, we can reverse the fatwa about the prohibition about nuclear weapons. Now, they haven't done that yet, but from the Israeli perspective, I mean, how is this a victory? Uranium hexafluoride unaccounted for, centrifuges unaccounted for, a pissed off Iranian government that still possesses missiles that did a hell of a lot of damage to Israel. Does Israel really want to repeat this cycle again? I just see this as a loss for Israel. Again, hats off to the Israeli military. You guys knocked the crap out of the Iranians. You really did. And the Iranians acknowledge it. But they knocked the crap out of you too.
So you've covered a lot of the points that we'll be debating. Jonathan, I want you to go through each point. I've actually written them down because I want your perspective on each one of them. So we're starting with the broad perspective. The points that were mentioned by Scott were whether the war was legal or illegal. I want you to comment on that. Second, the comparison to Pearl Harbor. Third is whether Iran's nuclear program was an existential threat. So all these three are within, as in one point, the legality of it, or that it's justified. Number two is whether Israel failed to destroy Iran's nuclear facilities. And the third one is regime change. Was that an objective? And if so, did it fail?
Right. So let's be serious here for a second. The Islamic Republic of Iran, its regime, has an outspoken official goal, which they have not been hiding. They've been saying it in Farsi for a long time, and that is to annihilate the State of Israel. Up until a few days ago, they had a countdown clock in a square called Palestine Square, and the name of the square is not coincidental, where they were counting down from the year 2040, which they call the last day of what they dubbed the Zionist entity, what I call the State of Israel. They've said numerous times, official statements by the so-called supreme leader, is not very supreme these days, but Khamenei, and various presidents going back 10, 15 years and until now, various military leaders, head of the IRGC, head of the Quds Force, the previous and the current one, and many other, and of course, members of parliament, legislators, heads of the Iranian military. The list goes on and on and on about Iranian officials that have said clearly that they aim to annihilate and destroy the State of Israel, what they call the Zionist entity. So in terms of understanding where we stand, where Israel stands, it's a pretty straightforward situation. Israel is threatened by an Islamic regime. That regime was also on the path of developing nuclear weapons. And there is abundant evidence from the Atomic Agency, Israeli intel, American intel. We can discuss and deliberate details about it, but bottom line, the Iranians were building a nuclear weapons program. They were busy not only enriching to military grade levels, 60 and 90%, they were also weaponizing and experimenting and trying to develop the capacity to turn enriched material into fissile and then turn that into a bomb and then put all of those things together in a delivery system, probably a ballistic missile that they had thousands of before this engagement. And the aim here is pretty clear. They say that they want to destroy and annihilate the State of Israel, and they were trying to develop the means to do so. That's one part. Second part is that Iran has been conducting, and what I might say is a pretty effective strategy of indirect warfare against Israel. They quite cleverly built a series of proxies. The most important one, which failed terribly on the 13th of June, but the most important and powerful and deterring one was Hezbollah in Lebanon. And in addition to that, Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza, various proxies in Syria up until the time that the regime there fell, and about 20 significant proxies in Iraq, and of course the Houthis in Yemen. What the Iranian regime tried to do was to build that ring of fire around Israel. And on the 7th of October, that ring of fire allegedly exploded or ignited when Hamas attacked Israel unprovoked, killing about 1,300 Israelis, taking 251 hostage, and setting into motion a chain of events that I think culminated on June 13, 2 weeks ago, when Israel struck Iran. And the things are connected. All of the Iranian proxies joined in, some more merrily and more effectively than others. But a year and a half after that fatal act of aggression by Hamas, the Iranian project of proxies is all but destroyed. Not quite yet, and Israel still has work to do. But judging from how they delivered after June 13, very poor military achievements. Hezbollah opted out, they cowered out. The Houthis, they participated, they fired a few drones and 3 ballistic missiles, none of them hit. And no incoming fire from Syria, no significant incoming missiles from Iraq, a few drones were fired. And Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza were busy doing other things, mostly hiding in tunnels as Israeli troops are maneuvering there. So what Israel did on June 13 was, for the first time in a perspective of 25 years, to turn the table and to address Iranian expansionism, Iranian aggression against Israel, and to tell the Iranians that now we're going to deal, and here I come to the part of targets, we're going to deal with 3 essential aspects of what you, the Islamic Republic, has been busy doing. One is your illegal, clandestine, and highly controversial nuclear weapons program. We, Israel, are going to blow it out of the ground, and we're going to make sure that you never have the ability to build a nuclear bomb or to fire it towards Israel. 2, we're going to attack and disable your offensive capabilities, most specifically your ballistic missiles. And 3rd, we are going to put a heavy dent into your ability to continue to fund terror organizations, Hamas, Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, Houthis, and others that are killing Israelis and forcing us to spend much more than we want on national security. Those 3 goals were the obvious targets. I think I am in agreement with Scott here about one thing, that I think Israel also wishes to see regime change in Iran, but it wasn't the initial target, and it still isn't an official Israeli target. I think it's something that Israel wants to see. I think it's a vision and an aspiration that is shared by many countries in the region, and I think it would be great, but it wasn't an official target, and Israel hasn't really put in any significant effort, except for one evening of strikes at government facilities in Tehran, to see that happen. So to conclude, I would say, the title of our conversation is Who Won the War? Of course, nobody won this war, because it wasn't all out and it wasn't conclusive, and there's still a lot of work to do. If we take stock of the current situation, I would say that militarily, Israel enjoyed tremendous intel, aerial, and operational superiority. The only achievements that the Iranians can claim, if they can claim, is killing 27 Israeli civilians and 1 off-duty Israeli soldier, and inflicting damage to houses and some national infrastructure in Israel. That is a far, far cry from what Israel has been able to achieve with precision-guided strikes based on live and very accurate intel against specific targets, and that were in very close coordination with